Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be doing a rules refresher for Anachrony. In this video, I'm going to go over the module Alternate Timelines, and this module is from the base game. So if you have any version of Anachrony, you should have alternate timelines and can use it. So let's get right to it. Let's get rolling. Alright, I am very much not set up to play a game of Anachrony, but I've got just enough set up here to talk about alternate timelines. So this is just an abbreviated setup, and I'll show you what you need to know to play with this module. So this one comes with the Anachrony base game, and you may have noticed when you set up the game, you've got your timeline here. There are 4 tiles pre-impact, 3 tiles after, and you've got these 2 other tiles, and they're all seemingly identical, so it's like, why would you have these other tiles? And that's because the alternate timeline is on the back side of these tiles, and they are different. So as a quick refresher, these timeline tiles here, you've got your focus markers down here by path to keep track of what area you're in during the game, and you can time travel and move your focus marker back in time to do things. And one of the things you can do is you can retrieve your warp tiles. So at the warp phase of each era, so say we're in the first era here, each of these players could randomly pick 0, 1, or 2 of their warp tiles to use. They reveal simultaneously, and then they put them on the timeline and pay any necessary costs, gain any resources, and then they can go on with the game. And then future eras, you can travel back, repay the cost, and get some time travel bonus for that. So that's how these warp tiles work, just as a quick reminder. But let's say we're going to use the alternate timeline side. So we're going to flip all these over. No reason to flip over the impact one, because it's just the impact on both sides. So you still use the same number of timeline tiles. There we go. And then I'll just flip these over just so you can kind of see what they've got on them. But say that we're playing with these here. There are a bunch of other symbols that you may notice, and there are benefits and there are penalties. And so turn order becomes a little bit more relevant when using this alternate timelines module. So again, same thing. Everybody's going to reveal simultaneously how many warp tiles they're going to use. Okay, we've got 2 here, 1 here. But then you place them down on the timeline in player order, and you start here at the top left and you work your way around. So you just follow the arrows. So if this was the first player, they would place 1, 2, and then if this was a second player, they would place their 1, and then you continue around, and there are 8 spots. It's a 4-player game, maximum of 2 warp tiles per player. So if everybody did 2, you'd fill it up. So part of the fun of this module is trying to guess what the other players are going to do with their warp tiles so that you can get the benefits that you want, but not the penalties. So let's just take a look. Well, maybe I'll walk through all of them just as an example. So all the different benefits. So this one here with the morale marker pointing to the right, this one is an inspiring message. So you're going back and getting an inspiring message from the future. And so if you place a warp tile on that symbol, you get to take your morale marker down here on this track and just move it up 1 space to the right. Now that doesn't actually do anything as far as taking your tired workers and making them motivated, but it does increase your victory points. So that one is nice to have. And it also keeps you from getting too far to the left where you have to start losing your workers if you get too far down that side. The second bonus is this one here. It's just a 1 victory point icon, and that one's simple enough. If you place a warp token there, you get 1 victory point right away. Just put that by the side of your player board with the rest of your victory points. This one here is a stable timeline, or stable time rift. And if you are able to place one of your warp tokens on that icon, again, remembering that you must go in order. You can't just grab whichever one you want, but say that there were 6 other ones on here and I'm the 4th player. If you place your warp tile there, you can then remove 1 paradox token. So that can definitely be very handy. And the last bonus icon you might see is this one, which is a warp tile that says 2x on it. And so when you get to place something there, that means whatever you place, you double it. You get 2 of. So this one happens to be a uranium, so I would gain 2 uranium instead of 1. You know, if I had the exosuit, I would get 2 powered up exosuits. If I had a worker, so this is a scientist, I could, I got to pay the 1 water for a scientist, and then I got to pay a 2nd water to get a 2nd scientist. Now, if you wanted to do that and you only had 1 water, then you only be able to bring back 1, in this case, administrator, 1 worker. The benefit would just be wasted. But if you have the 2 water, then yeah, you can double that too. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention a minute ago, which is an important clarification. Say I've got this 1 neutronium warp tile, and I'm able to place it here on this 2x. So I would get 2 neutronium on this turn. In the future, if I time travel back to there and I want to pay this warp tile back, it doesn't matter that it says 2 under it. I just pay back the standard cost. I pay back 1. Same thing if it was a worker, if it was a powered up suit, if it was 2 water, it doesn't matter. You pay back the normal cost that's printed on the warp tile. You don't have to double pay it back. So that's really nice. In that instance, you're actually getting something for nothing. That's really cool. So you really want to try and get those if you can. And I think that's the one people question the most, but that applies to all the bonuses and the penalties. If you got 1 victory point, when you pay that 1 back, you don't have to pay back the victory point. That's not how it works. You just take the tile off by returning the cost of whatever is printed on the tile. But then, of course, there are some negative effects that you can get from your placement on the alternate timelines as well. So those are outlined in these big red bold lines, and there are only 2 of those. One of them is this one here. This is a grim message from the future. So that takes your morale marker and moves it 1 space to the left. And then the other is this one here. This is a collapsing time rift, and that just means you have to gain a paradox token. So you don't really want either of those things. And so if we just play this out for a second, let's say that we're this player here, we're the 2nd player, and we're trying to decide how many warp tiles to use, say, in this first era. And so some of the dilemma is, maybe we hope that this first player will place exactly one warp tile, because that way if we place 2, we can get the double benefit, the 2x benefit, plus 1 victory point. But if the first player instead places 2, because it's a blank and then a 2x, they probably want that 2x, then we will get the 1 victory point, and then if we place a 2nd, we'll end up gaining this paradox, and that would be bad. So maybe, this is like a rock, paper, scissors thing. You get into a little bit of a meta in your own head. So maybe we're only going to play 1. But if player 1 is thinking about that and, knowing that we'll probably play 1, they might play 0. And then we'll end up here and getting no bonus at all. And maybe we really need that 2x benefit and we're relying on it. So you can kind of go round and round in your head trying to figure out how many warp tiles other players are going to place ahead of you, or what you can do to the players who are ahead of you to ensure that they get some sort of penalty depending on where you're placing. And so out of these 9 tiles, only this one here has a penalty on the very first spot. But each tile does have at least 1 penalty. So that's a pretty simple module, not a lot of rules overhead, but it's, simple enough to implement. A couple of side things to note. If you are playing with fractures of time, then the timeline is going to be a little bit shorter, and you're going to have this era 0 here at the beginning. The era 0 tile doesn't have anything on the back. There is no alternate timeline tile. This is just a regular tile for era 0. You're not going to get any benefits or penalties for that one. You just play with it as normal. And then let's reset this. Let's talk about this for a minute as if we were playing solo. So you can use alternate timelines with both the Chronobot and the Chronosis. I prefer the Chronosis over the Chronobot just in general, but it's going to work the same way. So when you play solo against either Chronobot or Chronosis, when it comes to the warp phase, you decide how many warp tiles and which ones you want to use, 0, 1, or 2 of them. And for the bot, you just roll the paradox die. So we got a 1, so that's how many they would place. Now, what's important is turn order here. So just like in the multiplayer game, you're going to put these warp tiles onto the timeline in player order, but you still make your choice secretly and independently. So before you roll the die, you're going to pick 0, 1, or 2, and then you make your selection, your selection's made, and then you roll this die for the bot. And again, we got 1, okay? So if the bot is first, they're going to place their warp tiles onto the timeline before you. Otherwise, you place yours, in order, and then the bot, if you were first, you would place yours, and then the bot would go after you and place theirs. So the bot does not get any of the penalties. If the bot places on one of the penalty spots, you just ignore it completely, no big deal. And then if the bot lands on any of the bonus spaces, the bot just, no matter what the bonus is, the bot gets 2 victory points for each of the bonus spaces it lands on. So again, it doesn't have a morale track, like it's not doubling anything because it's not really getting any resources. It doesn't even take paradoxes off of here if it lands on that spot and has a paradox. Instead, just wherever the benefit space that it lands on, it gains 2 victory points to its VP pile. So I think that about covers it for the alternate timeline tiles. It doesn't specify, but I think the implication is when you play with these tiles, go ahead and shuffle them all up on this side and lay them out like this, then flip them over so you're not able to place exactly the tiles you want. You don't know exactly which ones you'll have. But you would flip them all over at the beginning of the game like this. You don't do it one era at a time. Just flip them like this so they're all face up, and then play the game as normal at that point. But there you go. That's alternate timelines. So if you'd like, I'm going to do a playthrough video using alternate timelines. I'll put a link at the end of this video so you can just jump straight there if you want. I'm also doing some other rules refreshers today that I will publish as well on some of these mini expansions, so you can watch some of those if you like. And then if you're interested in this type of Anachrony content, you find it helpful, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to be putting out Anachrony videos roughly every other week for the next couple months here, going over each module that's in the game and then doing a solo playthrough to demonstrate that module. So be sure to check that out. If it's something you like, leave a like on this video. Leave me some comments if you have any questions about anything that I said, or if there's something that I missed or didn't cover, just let me know and I will do my best to address that in the comments. But that's what I've got for you this time on Table for One. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you in the next video.